Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to my video for the December Stripes Challenge. I decided to hand draw these stripes with watercolors. I used different colors on each one of these, but pretty much the same technique. This last one here, the happy birthday one, is the one I'm going to be creating in the video. So I am going to use the Happy Celebrations set by Stampin' Up! And my Gonzai Tombi watercolors, which I used on all of these cards. For the happy card, I'm looking at all the greens here, so I'm just going to pick a selection of greens. I'll have the numbers that I use. For this one, I just selected a red, orange, yellow, and just went through the rainbow. For this next one, I just went to all the blues and just kind of selected them in a random order. And then for this last one, I only have a photo because I gave it away already, but I used the red, orange, and yellows. I'm using the widest brush from my Ranger Artist Brushes set. And I'm just going to make one full swipe of each color just straight across the cardstock. So this is Canson XL mixed media paper, and it's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to start just left of center because I'll have 6 colors. So I'm going to have 3 on the left of center, 3 to the right. And you can see the first one went pretty well. So I just did kind of 2 swipes because I want it to be a little darker. And I'm going to let each one dry in between. So I'm kind of cutting that part out, but I am letting each of them dry in between. So my next one, I think I should have just left it like this, but I didn't. I decided, well, I want it to look like I swiped the opposite direction. So I just flipped it over and swiped again. But then I had that kind of thick area at the bottom. I'm like, I don't really like that. So I kind of pulled it across again, and then I thought I could stop in the middle, and I couldn't. So the point here is that you could just keep going and going until you get it exactly the way you want it. So that last time there, I was happy with it. Now notice that I'm also sort of hitting the craft mat with my brush, and that's because I just want to kind of get some of the color off, because I'd rather start with less color and add it than start with too much color. So this one I decided wasn't enough color. So I went back in without any water, just grabbing some paint, and I'm going to do that one more time, so no more water. So the paint is actually getting thicker, and I'm just going to swipe that across. And I was happy with the way that one turned out too. So all of these are going to look completely different, and it's made to look handmade. So it's not going to be perfect. It's watercolor, so I need to just sort of accept however it comes out. This next one is a really dark color, and I'm using a lot of water, and you can see it's too much water because it's really pooling up at the end. And it also left a little drop there to the right of the, well, upside down to the left now of the stripe. So I'm just going to slowly pull it across, and I see that there's still just too much water. So I'm going to grab some more paint, and I'm going to try to pull that water across, because as the water sits in the palette, it sort of makes the paint thicker. But look, the water is almost like coming out of the inside of the brush, so it just keeps coming out. So I'm going to dry the brush. So this is a good way to sort of dry up any kind of pools that you have, but you want to run it across the whole thing again. So I'm going to run it across the whole thing, and then I was happy with this because I kind of like that thick area of dark color at the edge because it just looks really interesting that way. Moving on to the next one, it's a pretty light color. Notice that I'm taking my time with all of this, so if I don't like it, I'm going to go over it again. This one I think looks really good, but you'll see that I'm going to go back because I think it's a little too short, so I'm going to flip it over. So notice that I am flipping this, just kind of rotating it 180 degrees, because I want it to look like some of the swipes are coming from the left, some are coming from the right, and it just looks different each time. So you can see here I'm just going to do it again, and then I got some more water, and so then I try to sort of soak it up a little bit and tap it, but that doesn't work. So pulling the tissue out again, drying it up when it starts to pool too much, and then I'm going to kind of swipe it again a couple of times here, and it does lighten up, but if I wanted it to be darker, I could just go grab some more paint and do it again. All right, this is my final one here. And again, you want to make sure that these dry very well before you move on to the next one, because if you don't let it dry, then the colors will run into each other and it won't look like they're 2 separate stripes. All right, this final one looks pretty good. I've got that kind of dark pooling at the end, so I'm just going to swipe that across one more time. And I did get a little bit of dark there at the bottom, but I really like that. So I'm going to let that dry completely. And oops, I forgot to turn the camera back on, but all I did was ink this up with some Versamark. I'm using this Happy stamp in the set. And I also wanted to show you that there is a paint swipe right there as a stamp in the set. So if you don't want to work with watercolors, you could just use this paint swipe stamp. So I inked it up with Versamark, and I'm going to put some white powder and heat it to set it. I'm using my Micron 03 pen because I wanted the letters to stand out a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is outline on the inside. Now this is real time here, so you can see how incredibly slow I'm going. I'm going to do this all the way across each one of these letters, but I'm speeding it up now. And the whole thing took about 3 minutes, I want to say. And I did mess up one time on the H there, but then I ended up adding a little bit of white splatter on top of it so you wouldn't really see it. Anyway, so I really like the way this came out. I did the same thing for the card that says Gaia on it, except I used different letter stamps, but I did outline the inside with the same Micron pen. All right, so the white palette that comes with my Gonzai set, I always use this for my white splatters. I'm just going to tap it. I always do it really easy, slow and easy at the beginning to make sure that I don't get too much. And then I'll load the brush again and I'll put some more water on it, and that'll make more splatters come out. The more water you use, though, the more diluted the dots will get. And so I was using quite a bit of water. My dots got pretty diluted, so I added some more with a gel pen later. But anyway, I'm going to let that dry completely. Meanwhile, I'll work on my sentiment. I'm using the Birthday to You from the same set. I'm just going to stamp it in Versamark ink on some black cardstock. And then I'm going to put some white powder on it and heat it to set it. And I'm just noticing that it's just a little bit too big for me. So I'm going to go rogue here, and I'm going to actually cut it with a scissor. And what I'm doing is I'm going to cut it as close to the words as possible. I never do this, but I really wanted it to be super close, and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get it right with the trimmer, so I'm manually cutting this. And I was actually really happy with the way it turned out. So there you go. Now I'm going to cut this piece to 4 by 5 1/4, so we'll have a 1/8 of an inch mat on all sides. Put some Scotch foam on the back and put it on a Hero Arts black note card. So you can see that my dots got a little diluted, so I'm just taking a white gel pen and sometimes I'm dotting it with just a thin dot, sometimes I'm coloring in a thicker dot, just kind of making some of these stand out a little bit more. Now here is my metallic sequins set again that I'm pulling out. I love this set. And I got all my sequins arranged, and then I realized I forgot to put the Birthday to You on there. So I used 2A glue to put that on. And then I rearranged my sequins. So I just wanted to share with you how I arranged them. So I have my stars here in a triangle, and then I have my sequins in a triangle. And then I made sure they were not equidistant. So these two are closer together and these two are closer together. And that's sort of how I try to arrange them. Now I'm going to adhere them the way I always do with my pick-me-up stick. I pick it up and then I put some multi-medium matte on there. There's a little piece at the end that pulls out, and then you can use it to release the embellishment from the sticky part. I'm going to do that with all 6 of these pieces, and then I am done. So that is the card for today with my greens. Now I'm going to show you some of the other ones. So I have the Celebrate one, which I used the Celebrate word from that same Happy Celebration set. And then for the thank you card, I used all the blues from the Gonzai Tambi. My thanks stamp came from the Altenew Superscript 2 set, this thanks down here. And my letters to you I created with the labeler alphabet. I just stamped the solid stamps and cut them out and adhered them underneath. For this one, I used those same labeler alphabet stamps to spell out "We will miss you," and then I used some letter stamps to spell her name, Gaia. And those are the cards for today. So I hope you enjoyed this and that you will try it for yourself. It was really fun to have all these different colors and trying them all out in different combinations. They were all over my craft table, and I just picked my favorites. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.